All right, guys, what I want to tell you about today is about Everlance, and I'm going to give you some tips that are going to help you save money as an entrepreneur. Now, the most important thing is to understand that as an entrepreneur, whether that is a micro business, whether you have a side hustle, whether you have a small business where you make affiliate commission online, that means you have a business. And what it also means is that those expenses you can write off, and also the mileage. So if you go to the mall to get a new cord for your computer, or buy a new computer, or buy a new phone, and you do videos, then you can use that as a business expense. So I'm going to show you how this works. And there is actually a free option with Everlance as well. But I've been using something actually similar to this, but it recently got bought up by another company. But I love this because what it does is it gamifies and makes it very clear how much you're saving by doing this. So the original idea of Everlance, okay, is a mileage tracker, okay, because a lot of people, maybe they do some drives that can be classified as business. And what this does is this will automatically track your mileage and your expenses for you. And what's really cool is this works anywhere, but it will log the mileage. It will, if you put in your gasoline, it will help you determine how much you can write off from that because, yes, you can write off a portion of your gasoline and, of course, a portion of all your car payments, car maintenance payments, gasoline, all that kind of stuff. And what's cool is the app will get some information about you and about the car that you're using, and it will give you a in real time score of how much you're saving by measuring this trip. So it's pretty interesting because I know a lot of people are into the human wearables and trackables so they can see metrics. This gives you metrics that you can basically write off and save at tax time. So you don't need to do anything about the tax thing at the moment, but what it does is it will sense when your phone is in a car, and you can basically, at the end of the day, swipe if that was a personal trip or that was a trip that you used to do something for your business. So you can classify them as work or personal if it's tracking them automatically. You can also do this manually, which would make sense if you make just a very few drives that are for business. You can just add in those ones. Also, expenses. Okay. This can sync all your credit cards so you can track income and expenses. Now, just speaking about expenses, if you do have a business, I would recommend that you get a credit card exclusively to use for business. Okay. Even if you're a small micro entrepreneur, it just helps keep things clean. And one of the things that you can do is if you don't want an actual credit card, you can get a prepaid debit card. And a lot of these cards give really good rewards. I've done a bunch of videos on my channel about some of these different options, but it's really going to be different. My recommendations if you're in Canada versus if you're in the United States versus if you're in Europe. And so what I'll do is if you want to have a card that you can either use for business, or maybe you just want to get the most points or use a prepaid debit card instead and get a lot of cash back, then I'll put those links in the description so you can read that and filter that out for yourself. But be that as it may, you can have this synced automatically or you can do it manually. And this is really good because let's say you have a micro business and you don't do too many things online, but maybe you pay for an autoresponder and you pay for a Canva Pro subscription and buy some kind of software as a service like Linkalytics. That's my software as a service. And what it does is it helps tracking links. I'll leave a link to that in the description as well. But all these things you can just put in manually if you don't want to. And then even if you are using just one credit card, you can easily get the maximum benefit from those tax deductions. And there is a deduction finder that helps you find deductions based on the business classification of that store that you purchased at. So that could be helpful as well. Okay. And you don't need to know a lot about accounting or anything for this. This is basically just a very simple track your expenses. And then you can give that to your accountant at the end of the year and say, and in my business, these are the extra expenses and write that off. So it's great for businesses and also for self-employed people. And it makes it easy to do that. You can put it on, it is IRS compliant. And it's great if you do things like if you're doing any kind of driving, like for Lyft or Shipt or DoorDash or anything like that, it's going to save you a ton of money for doing that. Okay. So I would really recommend to do this. And I've actually done a webinar about how this works. But in this video, I'm just going to give you a real quick overview of this. So they have a few different things, both for companies and for individuals. And with the individuals, they basically have this manual mileage tracker. So this is great if you don't do a lot of trips, then you can just plug in, let's say you do go to the mall today, you don't need to have it on, you don't need to be tracking anything, but you could just put in the address of the mall and you'd set your home address and it will just calculate the route that you went. Doesn't need to be exact, doesn't need to actually be the route that you went. It's just, it will say you went X number of kilometers there and back on that business trip. And that's all great for the IRS. That's all they need to know. They don't need to know which streets you went down. And so doing that can just save you money on a completely free planet at Everlance. I do the automatic mileage tracker. I think it makes a lot of sense because it just saves you a bit of time at the end of the day, especially if you're driving occasionally for business and you can just swipe things that are personal drives. You can also combine, right? So we'll get into that a little bit later. And then there's a premium plus where you actually get some live training on it. And so there's some extra benefits with that. But what's nice about this is even the premium at $5 a month, you're looking at $50 for the year. You're going to save that in business deductions, and it typically pays for itself in the first month. And this is really not a joke. It really does. So I would highly recommend that you at least try it out and see how it is for you. And then they have all of the different features, right, of how it works. You can put custom tags in, which is really helpful. Trip notes, so you can remember stuff. And again, this is also great if you're doing any kind of work as an executor, let's say, of an estate, or sometimes if you just end up doing stuff for families or for your own family, sometimes you might want to have a record of it, and it's really cool. So all these plans actually have receipt photo capture, which will take a photo. You can take a photo of the receipt. You don't need to keep the paper receipt. And then it will try to scan that and enter that in, and you can classify it and stuff like that. You can have custom expense categories, which really helps you get a handle on what you're spending on your business. And credit card integration, bank integration is really helpful because then it can give you a full, basically P&L report at the end of the year, and it can look at all your bank expenses and income and actually prepare a little report for you. So it's really nice. This is IRS compliant mileage logs. They have full route maps. They have a tax center, all kinds of stuff, customer support, and then additional stuff. It is based in the clouds. All right. So this is really cool because again, this is free. So you can actually use the basic version for absolutely free, which is pretty awesome. And why wouldn't you do it? It just makes so much sense to do that. And again, this is all IRS compliant. So the IRS is going to be really happy with these records. You're going to have better records. It's going to help you have more control over your business. And I just think it's a really fantastic service. This is another question people have: is the cost of Everlance tax deductible? Yes, because you're keeping track of your business records. So anything that you need to do or have access to for your business, as I said, a lot of subscriptions that you have. For example, I have a Headway subscription, so it does summaries for me. So I use that and occasionally will talk about that on social media or do videos for that on social media. And so that becomes a tax deductible subscription. So a lot of the things that you're probably buying anyhow are going to be tax deductible subscriptions, particularly because, everyone's got a side hustle these days. So anyhow, I think it's a really fantastic solution for everyone. And if you do any kind of business online, if you have any plans of doing business online, start doing that now, start tracking that now. That cord that you need for your computer, that new battery that you need for that computer, that new phone, that new camera, all that stuff can become tax deductible if you're just tracking it the right way. So if you have any questions, let me know, but I'll put a link to Everlance in the description. Really helps if you support this channel by subscribing and by using the link in the description. And also in the description, check out the links to the different credit cards because it really will save you a lot of money and help you get more cash back by using the right credit card, and does keep things clean for your business to keep that separate. All right. If you have any other questions with anything, don't hesitate to reach out. I'd be more than happy to help. And that's all I've got for this video. We'll see you in the next one.